On the crowded streets of Manila, life rushes by in endless noise, but in the corner of a busy marketplace, a fragile voice rises above the chaos. It belongs to Ramon, a barefoot boy no older than 12, clutching a battered guitar that has seen better days. Each note he sings is imperfect yet pure, carrying the weight of his young but heavy heart. His voice trembles with both pain and hope, echoing stories of struggle that many passers-by fail to notice. Ramon is not singing for applause, nor is he chasing dreams of fame. He sings because he must. Every coin tossed into his small, rusted tin is a meal for his younger siblings waiting at home, siblings who look up to him as both brother and parent after the tragic loss of their mother and father. The marketplace is harsh, and most people walk past without stopping. Yet, sometimes a stranger pauses, captivated by the raw honesty in his song. In those fleeting moments, Ramon feels seen, if only for a heartbeat. His small frame sways with the rhythm, his eyes closed, as though music is his only escape from the cruel reality pressing down on him. Behind every lyric lies a silent plea, not for himself, but for the little ones who depend on him. Despite hunger and exhaustion, Ramon's spirit refuses to break. In the heart of Manila's noise and struggle, his voice becomes a fragile flame of hope, flickering yet unyielding against the darkness. On another humid afternoon in Manila, Ramon tightened the single strap of his worn guitar and walked toward the busiest plaza. His feet, rough and blistered, slapped against the pavement as he searched for a familiar corner. The sun burned his skin, but he barely noticed, his focus was survival. Once he found his spot, he closed his eyes and began to strum. The guitar's strings buzzed unevenly, some out of tune, but his voice carried something more powerful than perfection. It carried truth. Shoppers, vendors, and jeepneys created a blur of sound around him, yet Ramon's singing broke through, drawing curious glances. A few people stopped for a moment, listening as the boy poured out emotions far greater than his years. His tone carried sorrow, but also an unshakable strength, as though music was the only language he had to keep his heart alive. Some shook their heads and kept moving, while others dropped a few coins into his tin can. Every sound of metal hitting the bottom meant rice for his siblings, maybe even a little bread if luck was kind. Though his stomach growled, Ramon sang with all the air in his lungs, as if each song was a prayer whispered into the streets. He thought of his younger brother's smile, his sister's laughter, and that memory kept him going. He had nothing else, not toys, not comfort, not parents, but he had his voice. And with it, Ramon carried a dream that maybe, someday, the world would hear him. That evening, as the streetlights flickered on and the marketplace began to thin, Ramon stayed in his corner, gripping his guitar tightly. His little body ached from standing all day, but he knew he couldn't stop yet. At home, two small faces waited, hungry and hopeful. Every note he sang was like a promise to them, that he would do whatever it took to keep them alive, even if it meant standing here until his voice broke. Passers-by hurried past, some avoiding his eyes, others tossing a coin without slowing down. For most, he was invisible, just another poor child in the sea of Manila's endless struggle. But for Ramon, this was everything. Music was his only lifeline, the fragile bridge between despair and survival. With each strum, he pushed back the loneliness, the grief of losing his parents too soon, and the crushing weight of responsibility no child should bear. A soft drizzle began to fall, dampening his torn shirt and his worn-out guitar. Still, Ramon didn't stop. Instead, he lifted his chin and sang louder, letting the rain mix with his tears. In that moment, he wasn't just a boy on the street. He was a voice calling out to the world, a soul refusing to be silenced. And though most people walked away without noticing, a spark lingered in the air, as if destiny itself was listening, waiting for the right moment to change his life forever. The bright lights of the stage felt blinding as Ramon stepped forward, his small frame almost swallowed by the grandeur of it all. The crowd was restless, the judges staring with polite curiosity, expecting just another nervous child. Ramon's hands trembled as he gripped the microphone, the same way he once held his battered guitar on the streets of Manila. For a moment, the weight of fear nearly crushed him. Then he thought of his siblings, waiting far away, and suddenly his chest filled with courage. The music began, soft and familiar, and Ramon opened his mouth. The first notes of Hotel California floated into the air, fragile yet powerful. His voice was different here, richer, deeper, filled with every tear he had ever cried on the sidewalks of his city. The audience fell silent, their chatter fading as goosebumps rippled across the room. It wasn't just a performance. It was a story, a cry, a prayer wrapped inside a song. Halfway through, one of the judges reached for a tissue, their eyes glistening. Another leaned forward, visibly shaken by the purity of his voice. By the time Ramon hit the final note, the theater erupted. The crowd rose to their feet in thunderous applause, clapping, cheering, shouting his name. And then, suddenly, the golden buzzer was hit. A shower of gold confetti rained from above, swirling around the boy who once sang for coins on the street. Ramon dropped to his knees, tears streaming, overwhelmed by the miracle unfolding before him as the golden confetti drifted down like a blessing. Ramon covered his face with his hands, overwhelmed. For the first time in his life, people weren't just passing by or tossing spare coins, they were standing, clapping, and crying for him. The judges rushed to the stage, one kneeling beside him to say, "You've touched millions tonight." Ramon could barely speak, his voice breaking as he whispered that he had sung for his younger brother and sister, not for himself. Backstage, cameras captured his trembling smile as he held a picture of his siblings close to his chest. He knew they were watching from home, eyes glued to the small TV that neighbors had helped set up for them. In that moment, they weren't just poor children left behind in the chaos of Manila, they were part of something larger, a story of hope that had reached the entire world. Overnight, Ramon's name spread across the internet. Millions replayed his performance, sharing not just his voice, but his story. Messages poured in from strangers offering help, encouragement, and love. What began as a boy singing for survival had turned into a movement of compassion. For Ramon, life would never be the same. But more than fame, more than the lights, he carried one truth with him, that kindness, opportunity, and belief could transform even the darkest struggles into light. His journey became a reminder to the world that sometimes, the smallest voices hold the greatest power to inspire.